I-STARR. So if you attended a webinar before for the I-STARR project, you'll remember that it is supported by a grant from the National Institute on Drug Abuse, and it's part of the larger NIH helping to end addiction long-term, or the HEAL initiative. It's also one of several projects that comprise the Consortium on Addiction Recovery Science, or the COARS network. Let's go to the next slide, please. So I'm Amy Miracle. I'm a research scientist in the Alcohol Research Group at the Public Health Institute, and I co-lead the I-STARR project with Dr. Carmen Masson, who's a professor of psychiatry in the School of Medicine at the University of California, San Francisco. The team also includes co-investigators Sarah Zemore and Dr. Lenny Jason, biostatisticians Meena Subbaraman and Libo Lee, communication specialists Diane Schmidt and Dustin Kebzu, and the team's project coordinator is Quinoja Capitani. Let's go to the next slide. So the I-STARR project is guided by a 17-member advisory board comprised of a diverse group of leaders from across the country. Our advisory board members represent recovery and recovery housing leaders, treatment providers and payers, national policy advocates, as well as researchers and educators. Next slide, please. So let me tell you who you'll be hearing from today. We're excited to be hearing about Project Homes from 4 different presenters. We'll first hear from Dr. Cheryl McCurdy. Dr. McCurdy is a health promotion and behavioral, is a professor of health promotion and behavioral sciences in the School of Public Health at UT Health Houston. Since 2003, her work is focused on opioid use, harm reduction, and recovery. Her global leadership with colleagues in Tanzania led to the first public medically assisted treatment clinic on the African continent. There are now over 12 methadone clinics in East Africa. She also served as an expert group member supporting work of the West Africa Commission on Drugs to create a model drug law for West Africa, and is a member of the editorial board for the International Journal of Drug Policy. Her current U.S. projects include a Texas Health and Human Services Commission contract to open and evaluate MAT recovery homes across Texas. You'll hear about that today, as well as a HRSA-funded project providing scholarships to increase the number of recovery support specialists in rural Texas and along the Texas-Mexico border. So next, we'll hear from Jason Pullen, who's the director of the Texas Recovery-Oriented Housing Network, or TRON. Jason is an individual in long-term recovery from mental health and substance use disorders. He has a recovery support peer specialist certification, holds a bachelor's degree in Christian leadership, and has more than 30 years professional leadership experience in various industries. Jason has valuable lived experience as a resident of recovery housing, and before taking on the role of TRON director, he worked as a regional director and corporate finance or corporate training director for one of the largest service providers in the U.S. His strengths include leadership, mentoring, public speaking, and recovery advocacy, and he serves on several advisory boards, including the Clean Cause Foundation, the Spiritual Care Network, and the Mercy Street Council. Now, after we hear from Jason, we'll hear from Jen Brown, who is the Programs and Recovery Residence Director at Thriving United in Midland, Texas, which she co-founded in 2019. Jen is a person who lives in active, sustained, long-term recovery, which for her means living a self-directed, healthy, whole, and fulfilling, balanced life. She holds a peer support specialist, recovery support peer specialist, and mental health peer specialist certification, as well as a Bachelor's of Art in Child and Family Studies and a Master's of Arts in Special Education. Jen feels her education has given her the tools to listen to how and what behavior is communicating. Her heart and experience has given her the pureness to walk with others as a role model, supporting and guiding a holistic, healthy, and balanced way of truly living and being alive. And finally, we'll hear from Dr. J. Michael Wilkerson, who's an associate professor at UT Health Houston School of Public Health in the Department of Health Promotion and Behavioral Sciences. As part of his academic appointment, Dr. Wilkerson, serves as a faculty coordinator for the Health Disparities Certification Program and teaches graduate courses in health promotion, theory and methods, health disparities, and adult and community education. His research focuses on identification of individual and structural determinants that contribute to health disparities and the development and evaluation of health promotions programs. He's particularly concerned with disparities in substance use recovery and HIV/STI prevention. Dr. Wilkinson has received research funding from a variety of sources, including NIH, CDC, public health departments, as well as private foundations. Currently, he's funded to evaluate recovery residences for persons participating in medication-assisted recovery and a certification program for peer recovery support specialists. So I'm super excited to hear from these folks, and without further ado, I want to hand things off to Dr. Cheryl McCurdy. Let's go to the next slide.
Thank you, Amy, and thanks so much to I-STARR and allowing us to have this opportunity to present. So I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their day to come today. And we're going to tell you a little bit about Project Homes. So go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So disclosures, we have funding from the Texas Targeted Opioid Response, but our views do not necessarily reflect the official policies of the Department of Health and Human Services at Texas Health and Human Services. So next slide, please. And the next slide, thanks. So at Project Homes, we believe all people should have a recovery journey built to their unique needs without judgment or shame. And we're able to serve persons who otherwise would not have access to recovery residents. So we're serving people on MOUD, sometimes called MAT. So people who are taking, I was gonna say ibuprofen. I'm taking ibuprofen right now. So people who are using, for their recovery, methadone, buprenorphine, or Vivitrol. Next slide, please. So we're going to present an overview. Next slide, please. These are the 5 different provider sites that we are, and each one of these sites has 2 to 4 houses. And we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So we're across the state of Texas. So we'll talk first about Thriving, and that's where Jen Brown will talk to you more about her experience at Thriving and at Thriving United and Angel Haven in Midland. The 3 houses that we have in Midland serve men and women, and their participants can have children. For the men, they can have children that can visit. All of them are level 3. And the 2 women's homes are for women 18 and over, and the women can have their children 0 to 18 in their houses. So that's really awesome, really nice thing that they are able to provide. The other houses we have 4 houses that are in Austin, and those are 2 are for men, 2 are for women, 18 and older. Next slide, please. And these are pictures on the left of the houses. In San Angelo, we have 2 homes, and they're also level 3. The women's home in San Angelo will allow pregnant women and women with children over 12 months up to 12 months in their home. And what I didn't mention is in San Angelo, Midland, and El Paso, those homes are also allowing people who have stimulant use issues that also want to recover. So those houses are all mixed. And by mixed, we mean people, either trying to recover from a stimulant or an opioid. That's partly due to the fact that in West Texas and the border region of El Paso, stimulants are more of a problem than opioids. And now in Houston, we have 4 houses, and you see those are level 3, and they're for men and women over 18 years of age. Next slide, please. And El Paso has level 2 homes, and they're for men and women who are of 18 years of age and older. Next slide, please. So the agenda for today, you've heard already Amy Miracle tell you that who the different speakers are. So first we'll hear from Jason Pullen, who will tell us about what is going on in terms of the house manager network that he's really been really innovative and creative with the work that he's doing as a Trone, as a leader in Trone, and he'll tell you about that. And Jen Brown will talk about the benefits learned from participating in that network, and we hope for more about thriving. Then Mike Wilkerson will talk and give you an overview of the quant, and then I'll come back at the end to give you an overview of the qualitative parts of the study design. So Jason, do you want to go ahead and go next? I think the next slide is Jason. Great, thank you.
Sure, thank you, Cheryl, and I appreciate being introduced. As a person in long-term recovery, there's a time when instead of being introduced, I had to be explained. So I'm grateful to be here. As you stated, I do have lived experience as a resident and as a provider in recovery housing. And my role with this project is to provide technical assistance and training and facilitate group meetings. But y'all, it is my honor and extreme privilege to share about the real stars of this project today. This amazing network of house managers and providers who make Project Homes a success. In addition to their hard work in the homes, which is a thankless job, they get to deal with a lot of crises and conflict. But in addition to that, each one of them has a unique and inspiring recovery journey that they're able to model for the participants who live there in the homes. At this point in the project, what we're finding is that a vast majority of these house managers have come through the project. So they not only have lived experience in recovery, but they have lived experience using medication as part of their treatment for their substance use disorder. And what that does, it gives them a strong sense of empathy and relatability, really, with the people that are in their care. As I've worked with these providers, oftentimes I'll lean on them for resources, for information. Quite often, I refer to them when I'm doing TA with a new provider that wants to provide medically assisted treatment or mood medication in their home, but just doesn't have, it's kind of still a mystery to them. So these folks come together and help me out with a lot of things that I never understood. Now, there's two parts I really want to talk about today about this network. One of them is what we call our community of practice, and then the other one is our annual retreat. So the community of practice, that's a weekly Zoom meeting where all the house managers and some of the operators and providers come together, and it's kind of a collaboration just for learning purposes. Now I facilitate on the first and third Wednesday what we call Leadership Wednesdays, and we do currently right now we're in using a mastermind format to study the book, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth by John Maxwell. And it's a book all about personal growth. And so what happens on those weeks is everyone reads the chapter beforehand. They have a workbook with some questions that they go through. So by the time we come together, they bring their own experiences, some ideas, they bring some questions to the group for discussion. Then they're able to take that back, that information, that valuable leadership information, they take it back and apply it in real time as they go through and lead their homes. And on the second Wednesday of the month, someone from the group volunteers to bring a topic of discussion. Typically, the presenter will share a concept or an idea to gain some feedback, or they'll just highlight a successful practice that they found is working well for them. And some of these topics that we've dealt with, we deal with a lot of topics about stigma associated with MAT. Conflict resolution is a big one. They bring a lot of different conflicts to the table and look for solutions. Effective communication is a big one, and I've seen a lot of growth with these house managers in that area. Empathic listening is another big one that we talk about quite often. Listening skills, empathic listening, listening to understand rather than be understood. And avoiding taking things personally. This has been a theme throughout a lot of the meetings. Inevitably, someone will come with an issue and discuss it, and they've just seemed to take it a little too personally. And so the rest of the group kind of provides some feedback, provides some insight, some lived experience with the same types of issues. And finally, I would say the one we talk about quite often is self-care. We emphasize self-care throughout the whole thread of all of these meetings because it is so important to prevent compassion fatigue, which is something that anyone who works in recovery housing can experience, especially the house managers who live and work in the same location. Now, every fourth Wednesday, we set that aside for basically it's a check-in meeting. And this is usually one of our most powerful meetings of the month, this monthly check-in. It provides a safe space uh, for them to come and discuss personal experiences, issues. They solicit help from others who might have been through something similar. And these special check-in meetings, they're kind of a mix of vulnerability, with encouragement, celebration, and some empathy. So it provides them a really good sounding board for things they're going through, and they usually come away with some good solutions. So the second thing I wanted to talk about is our annual retreat. The annual retreats are a great way to build community and a sense of teamwork. And this year was really cool. We got to go to a meditation and yoga retreat center in the Texas Hill Country, just a beautiful setting. And we had some scheduled experiences that included a guided meditation, which I had never personally done, but it was very powerful and it went through several different types of meditation techniques. We also did a cold plunge, which that I had a lot of anxiety, but the rest of the team decided to do it. So I felt like, I had to do it with them. But it ended up being a powerful experience of learning how to control the senses in your body and getting control of your emotions. We did a farm tour. We even had some of our members that were able to experience hands-on learning on milking a goat. And so that was unique. And we also did on the last day a meditation hike on one of the trails through the location. And again, just a powerful experience. It was raining. We didn't seem to care. And so the theme of that weekend was mindfulness and self-care. Every person was also able to participate in cooking the meals. Each city brought a different meal that they prepared and served to the other participants. And that kind of brought the social model aspect to the event. And the in-person interactions, they really provided a way to bond and form some strong personal connections with the group. Now, I would say the strongest element of this team is our emphasis on social model. A lot of aspects of the group are self-governed. For example, we vote on the retreat activities. We actually voted on the retreat setting for next year. We decide on the community of practice format, things like that, and as well as mutual aid being at the heart of this team, as members frequently contact each other to find solutions or just simply to voice concerns a lot of times. This group has become truly a chosen family. Their sense of purpose and fulfillment that we all share has built a strong connection with us all. And I've had nothing but pleasure working with this group. We've tried lots of different things, different leadership trainings, and it's just become like a family every Wednesday when we get together. So this year, I did have the pleasure of meeting our next presenter at her location. She's going to tell you more about it, but I just want to say it's a fantastic organization. The feel for the recovery that I got there, it just really it filled my heart, and to understand and to see every aspect of it. And I'll let her tell you about it. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jen Brown. And go ahead, Jen.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Jason. And thank you, Project Homes, and everyone for being here. I'm grateful to be here and excited to share some of the benefits and lessons that we've learned. Thriving United is a recovery community organization that my husband and Pat and I founded in October of 2019. We obtained our 501c3 in January of 20. Thriving United provides peer support, recovery residency, and Thrive Teen Recovery. We meet people where they are, connect them to recovery, and join them on their journey to heal and rebuild their lives. So, but before I tell you a little bit more about our recovery residences and how they got started, I need to give just a short snippet of background to pull it all together. I received the gift of recovery by living in a peer-run community in Smithville, Texas. And it is here that I experienced the power of peerness. It is here I learned how to get vulnerable by living and growing as a member of a healthy family system. We were all learning and growing together, which provided for a powerful life-changing experience, both for myself and many others. So when I returned to Midland, I was excited, about where I had come from and all that was going on there, and come to find out Midland didn't have any homes available for women and children. And there were multiple barriers besides the lack of services. There's also, even living alone in Midland, the cost of living is based on the oil field. So it's pretty high out here. So that's where all the research began, and that's when I discovered the NAR standards and the National Alliance for Recovery Residences, and that's how our home started. We based them on these standards. That's how they were set up, and as a person with my educational background, when I found them, the domains, principles, and standards, they spoke my language, and with my experience, they also, the fact that they're peer supportive recovery residences spoke my heart language. And so we were super excited about them. I even made a flip chart like we use in the classroom, so you can outline all the domains. Anyway, all of our recovery residents are called Angel Havens, and they are all certified through Trone. They are all peer supportive, meant to provide safe, healthy, abstinent living environments based on the social model of recovery. So that research began in May of 2019, and we opened our first home for women and children in October of 2019. Our mission is to provide safe and affordable recovery residences so that people can live a healthy and balanced lifestyle, and receive mutual aid, receive support. And as Cheryl mentioned, the children can be 18 years of age, also allow pets. And so I'm going to start with when the importance of the social model, knowing how important that is to the health and the success of the home. I became the first resident and house manager, immediately followed by a house full. Without having the service here for moms and children, we continuously have a waiting list. Our families live by family of choice. Let me see. Sorry, I lost my spot. So I was the first resident because I wanted to be able to model being vulnerable. I wanted to give the experience I received in Smithville leaning into each other for mutual aid and support, and learning communication, participating with each other by cooking meals together, taking turns cooking, eating together, playing together, planning together, and encouraging the support in each other on our paths to recovery, no matter what they look like. It was, and in doing so, one thing that was most important was that everyone know that we are on equal ground and no one is above or below anyone else. And these are, so we did this by consistently emphasizing that I was a member of the family first and foremost. The manager role is simply a service role to fulfill the function of the home, and also aligning with the standards, keeping it comfortable, keeping it functional, and keeping it family-like. So that's still passed down to us today. Our managers often tell their families that, you know, I'm a family member first, because we all still need the mirror for each other, and we all still need the shoulder. So we're all on equal ground. And the next key component we have found is communication. We like to say around here, communication, communication, communication. That is the key to everything. And we first learned this, of course, through our experience of mirroring each other. So we would practice mirroring even with simple things like if someone asked on family movie nights, if someone needed popcorn or asked, could you bring the bowl of popcorn? We said, what I'm hearing you say is that you need some milk. And then we get the opportunity to correct them, you know, and just play with it, because that helps build this skill, so that when we did have more challenging conversations, we were already prepared with the language. And here recently, we, you know, through the trainings with Trone that Jason was discussing, we learned so much about communication, and the experiential parts that we get to share are really some of the most powerful. And we're also just constantly learning more. For me, I think that communication is something that will continue learning and growing for the remainder of my life. And I hope it does, you know. We based our definition of recovery for our homes off of the one from SAMHSA that I'm sure most everyone here is familiar with. That, you know, we improve, that we're going through a process of change to improve our health and wellness and live self-directed lives to reach our full potential. And the reason we chose their definition of recovery was we like the focus on wellness, and we like to be able to a definition that encompasses all pathways of recovery. So when we first met the Project Homes team, we were super ecstatic to be able to, our values aligned with inclusion, our values aligned with wanting to provide services for people who normally wouldn't be included in being able to find recovery residences. And one of the very challenges or lessons learned was that we need to educate more about that there was more education needed about living with as a MAR as part of their pathway. I always hesitate because I don't know which term to use, MOUD, MAR. And so I just want to make sure I'm using the right language. But as they choose the pathway of MAR, I mean, one of our own team members after our initial meeting was one of the ones that, you know, immediately had expressed some stigmatic language against it. And we were like, what? I mean, we're a recovery community organization. We accept all pathways, what's happening. But it gave us the opportunity to learn that, you know, there are still biases and that education is desperately needed. And it gave us a way to explore and be able to find that information and be able to provide it. So first we provided it with in-house, and then we were also able to start providing it outside to our community partners as we invited them to help fill the home and provide people who were in need with a place to reside and a place to receive the benefits of a recovery residence like we had. So we did become part of Project Homes in March of 21, and we currently operate 10 recovery residences that are currently housing 44 adults plus their kids and pets. And over the past 5 years, we have served 123 family members. 41 of those members are part of the Homes Project. And we currently have, from that one home, we've now grown into 3 homes that are project homes. And we're serving, let's see, currently have 14 residents in those 3 homes, 2 for women and children, and one for men. I recently did a national survey where asked the question for us to come up with our average length of stay in days. And so that was a fun project. And I thought, well, I'll go ahead and do that for here so I can share that information. And for the Project Homes, Angel Havens, out of 41 family members, we averaged 341 days in length of time of stay in our house. And I think that's pretty amazing. There's a study done by the St. Paul University that shows that a person who stays in a recovery residence for at least a year increases their chances of achieving long-term recovery from 13% to 87%. So I thought that was really neat and was excited to get to share that here. Perfect timing survey. But I did promise to tell some lessons learned as well as successes. Out of the 79 family members who moved forward in their journeys, some were planned and some were not so planned. We found that the best way of meeting people where they are is to help them, meet them where they are and help them move forward, no matter what that looks like for them. So, for instance, one of the first women who left she had decided that she no longer wanted to live an abstinent lifestyle, which is required as part of our recovery residences. And we asked her what that would look like for her, to change the direction of her path and how we could support her in getting there. And so we made a plan and helped her move to her new residence. And now she knows that we're always here for her. We don't lose that connection and can respect each other and each other's journeys. Of course, there's also been times where we had to assist them in the decision to move forward in their journey, as well as due to not being able to meet all of the policy standards that we have for our homes. So we don't immediately ask people to leave when they're having trouble. We want to provide support and help in order for them to continue to achieve their recovery journey. So we developed a team of staff members who serve on what we call the Recovery Growth Plan Committee. And so if a person returns to use, we provide the opportunity to build in additional supports for them. They help them discover new resources, receive additional accountability. The committee sits with the person and together they develop a plan of action for that person's recovery growth plan. All of our residents also are required to work with our peer support staff. And so that journey is amazing for them, and they have that additional support as well as all the support they receive in their individual recovery groups or their program for MAR. So it's been a beautiful journey, and there's been so many blessings. I can't thank Project Homes enough about being able to provide this service to all the residents. They are the ones who do the work. They are the ones that desire to be here. They are the ones that are working and being vulnerable and leaning into each other every single day and growing healthy families. And I'm just grateful to get to be a part of it. I don't know if did Mike get here? I think I'm gonna pass it on to him or
Thanks, Jen. Thanks so much, Jen and Jason. That was beautiful. I really appreciate everything you told us. We couldn't have asked for more. So thanks. And just a shout out, I saw Ralph and Sammy are in the audience. So hopefully they can give us their great win that they got during the Q&A in a little bit. So thanks, you guys. I really appreciate everything you guys do. Can we have the next slide, please? This is just to give you a quick overview of the evaluation aspect of the Project Homes study. So we have the first component is the MAUD recovery residence. The second is certification and technical assistance. And you've heard from Jason about that a little bit. And then the third is program evaluation. Next slide. So the study arms are really, these are in Houston and Austin with 4 homes in each site. And in each place, so in Austin, there are 2 homes, a men's home and a women's home. And in Houston, a men's and a women's home that receive basically the home. The housing is actually free. That's part of the study. So everyone has a free place to stay for as long as they want to stay, as long as they're in active recovery. And then the enhanced piece, the second little square that you see there is the enhanced is that they have peer recovery coaches added to it. So they have the free recovery home, but they also have the enhanced recovery coaching. And the point is to see how having a peer recovery coach makes a difference to your recovery. And then the third square is treatment as usual, that these are people who are receiving MOUD in the community, but they're not in a residence like this, not in our houses. And so they all agree to consent if, whoever is in the study is consented, and they only, sadly, we can only offer them a $25 gift card. And then there's a baseline that collects information about where they are at that current moment in trying to, figure out their experiences in terms of using different types of services and their own, kind of drug journey and recovery. And then there's follow-up at 3 months, 6 months, and when they leave the house. Next slide, please. So the quantitative, I guess that's everything that I just said. So we can move on to the next slide. I'm sorry, can we go back one? I didn't talk about the outcomes. So at the bottom, you see the primary outcomes include substance use reoccurrence and changes in recovery capital. And the secondary outcomes of interest are about employment stability, healthcare utilization, and criminal justice involvement. And something I think that Jen mentioned and Jason didn't have time to talk about is that when a lot of people come into the houses, some of them really need assistance finding their birth certificate, getting a driver's license, all of these sorts of things to help them back on the road to recovery. Next slide, please. And these are just basic residence characteristics that you can see if you want to look at the slides again, and that we have in our papers. Next slide, please. And this is a paper that we're getting ready to submit very soon. And basically the major point about this is that the service sector use in terms of city emergency medical services, clinics, hospitals, law enforcement is really heavily, they see a lot of involvement in that. And then after they're in the homes, what happens is that falls down, and then they're actually very involved in social services. That's where we're seeing. So we're very excited about that. They're not in the ER anymore. They're actually, pursuing their supportive social services. So it's very exciting. Next slide, please. And I'll talk a little bit about the qual part of the study. So we have in-depth interviews that we've done with the residents, the staff, and the owner operators. We've had some observations in the residences and at events, and then we've done community mapping in Houston and Austin to look at the resources and what the environment that folks are living in and around the homes, how that might be influencing their recovery. Next slide, please. So we're looking at the benefits of living in these homes that serve people who primarily serve people who take MOUD. Next slide, please. So one of our papers that's out in the Journal of Substance Use and Addiction Treatment that I'll let you guys go ahead and access, I think it'll be on the website. The themes that we found is this is a ground, well, I love the title, Being Here is Saving My Life. It's a groundbreaking opportunity for people who often encounter discrimination when accessing recovery services. You know, people are like telling them over and over again, you're not in recovery if you're taking MOUD. And then, so they have access then to a less judgmental recovery support network that facilitates their connections. It's a safe home for residents to be authentic about their medication-assisted recovery. They don't have to hide it. And then there's this internalized MOUD-related stigma evolves into self-acceptance. So it's very exciting to see. Next slide, please. So things that we, the conclusion of that particular paper is that MOUD-friendly recovery residences offer a safe environment, a safe recovery environment where they can build these connections. Next slide, please. So what do we need to do? We need more MOUD supportive spaces. It's not enough to be tolerant of MOUD. People actually need to be supportive of it. And there's a need for more recovery residents training centered on how to develop a house culture that's supportive of residents in medication-assisted recovery in the ways that Jen and Jason talked about today. Next slide, please. And the other paper that I'll talk about really briefly because we don't have much time is, I love this title too, And Now I Feel Safe, I'm Coming Out of Fight or Flight. And these themes that arose in this paper that Hannah Stewart's talking about is group living challenges. Group living challenges some residents' mental health. So when people are just, when you first see the house, it can be awkward for people are difficult in the very beginning, but residents then in the next theme, they benefit from living other people who have shared experiences of poor mental health. They have, it's so stigmatized, people don't share that information. And so they're learning, oh, other people have this issue too. It's not just me. And they can share their resources and how they manage it. And then the third theme was residents exchange and support peers. And then the fourth is that this offers, the houses themselves, the residences offer a safe transition space while the people are unpacking mental health while what's going on. A lot of people find that once they've started on their recovery journey, that their mental health issues begin to emerge that they had maybe not been that aware of. So next slide, please. So with the high prevalence of co-occurring mental health issues, recovery housing is likely to serve residents with histories of psychosis or other extreme experiences, a lot of trauma in this community. These residents may require additional social support during periods of high turnover in the home or when the home is at capacity. And for any home here in Texas or somewhere else, when there's some sort of local disaster, we had the freeze, we have the hurricanes. So those are also challenges to the owner operators and the people in the homes to manage. And then overwhelming residents report benefiting from the support of the peers and the staff living with them in the homes. And our findings suggest that, recovery housing may benefit those with reoccurring substance use and mental health needs. Next slide, please. This is, to our knowledge, the first examination of mental health within the context of these sorts of recovery homes. Recovery homes with medication policies formulated for MOUD are uniquely situated to provide safe, supportive environments for residents with mental health medications, and that's actually the subject of another paper that we'll have out soon. Next slide, please. There's a YouTube video that will that we encourage you to look at that features one of our homes in Austin, and Ralph Fabrizio is talking in there, and it's a nice video to access. Next slide, please. We want to thank all of our residents. This is the only way this could have happened, with their participation, and all of our community partners who participate and make this possible. And here's the list. And thanks to all of our co-investigators. Mike Wilkerson and I are co-PIs in this project, but we couldn't have done it with all the other people that are listed here. and our amazing staff and students. So thank you so much for listening. I don't know if the next slide, if anybody has any questions, we're here to answer. Thank you.
Absolutely amazing presentation, Project Homes. Oh my gosh, loved hearing about the project and the different components from the network to what it plays out in terms of what's happening in the houses with the residents. Just fantastic. So this is the point where we can do some Q&A and some discussion. So folks have been dropping questions into the chat. I also see that folks have started raising their hands. So I see Dr. Leonard Jason, you have your hand up.
Yeah,
Want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
yes, thank you so much. It was very interesting. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Good. So we've been looking at people who have, in a sense, very severe mental health problems. For example, being on medications for things like bipolar, schizophrenia, just to see how well they do in kind of self-help recovery homes called Oxford houses. We're really fascinated by that. It does seem like some people with medication are able to handle these situations. Do you folks have any data or experiences with people with severe mental disorders? For example, potentially schizophrenia, bipolar, and how well they do in your recovery homes?
Is there anyone on the team who wants to field that?
Jen, do you want to talk? Do you have anything to share?
I do. I only have my personal experience to share. I don't have any data or anything on that. My son is a person who lived with severe schizophrenia, and he did try to live in one of our men's homes. It wasn't the Project Homes home though. It was for emerging adults, and it wasn't as a good suit for him. Even though the reason we chose that as an option initially was because he was comfortable with the people there. He worked really well with the house manager. He knew them, and so we felt like he would do well. But he really ended up doing a lot better in his own apartment with having someone be able to come by and give him his meds and check on him. And that's just my personal experience. We've had some co-occurring, but not severe schizophrenia or bipolar. We've come co-occurring that are already meeting, they have a handle on their mental health. They're already meeting with psychiatrists and on medications.
I don't know that we have any particular cases that are severe to talk about, but I see Ralph's question there, not question, just saying, can we share about the different styles of MAT and psych medication monitoring and management? One of the things that I didn't mention is that we contracted with all of the providers and basically stepped back and said, it's your home, you run it the way you want to. So, and then we're here to watch what's happening. So as the anthropologist on the group, I'm interested in the culture of the house and how that plays out. So we've been doing lots of interviews with the house providers and the house managers and the residents themselves, and asking questions about their experiences. And there is, this new paper that's coming out that I think will get submitted to the state for approval pretty soon, is in the next week or so. One of the things that we talk about in that paper is that these two worlds operate in silos. And so the psych doctors don't necessarily know about MAT interactions, and the people that are prescribing MOUD don't know anything about, or not much, it seems, about the psych meds. And so some people have had experiences where there was, I think one person, where there was an interaction that happened. And it was because, there's so much stigma associated with both of them that people didn't want to tell, or the doctor never asked about them being on those other ones. So because of all of the stigma that's associated with all of this, it's just really a limiting factor. And the fact that, our American healthcare system, silos so much of our different body parts in different places. So something that we need to think about and write about more. Thank you for that question. Dr. Jason, thank you. I mean,
Yeah, really great question. I'm going to pull one from the chat. This is from Leah Davies. I'm curious to hear if the panelists have any recommendations on how people seeking recovery housing can find other homes that are MAR/MOUD supportive, in addition to the fabulous Project homes. Any ideas on how folks can
I
find?
can touch briefly
MOUD?
on that, Amy. Hi, Leah. Yes, there are, every NAR affiliate keeps a housing directory. And I know here in Texas, we identify those homes that do are accepting of MAT. You know, a lot of homes, it's just again, it needs to be demystified. And that's some of the work that Project Homes is doing, has made strides for that. But you can definitely go on your NAR affiliates website, look for the housing directory, and filter the search by that particular category. And I know in Texas, we have far too few homes. We do have several that have embarked on this wonderful journey of assisting people on MOUD and other medications, but that would be the only one of the best ways to find them. So that's right.
Excellent.
Actually, I'm sorry, I just wanted to add that we, as part of the collab, which Project Homes is part of, another one of our studies was collecting information about every recovery residence in Texas. And so we're having we have a directory now that we're getting ready to make live that has a dashboard where people will be able to look at all that information. That should go live in the next month or so.
Fabulous, super exciting. So another question from the chat, the homes in Project Homes, are those exclusively for folks on MOUD, or are folks on MOUD living with folks who aren't on MOUD?
Yes. The answer is yes. So San Angelo, Midland, El Paso serves people who are in recovery from stimulant use, and they also don't need to be on MOUD necessarily in all of those homes. And as Jen mentioned, in Midland, they have lots of other houses too. So if Jen or Jason want to add anything.
I have another question. So I just love everything that's going on with this project. Now it's funded by state opioid monies. I loved seeing all the houses in Texas that are part of Project Homes, but there are probably lots of houses in Texas. What's the plan to make sure that all houses in Texas or beyond Texas are MOUD friendly and certified?
Well, I think the work that Jason and Jen are doing, we're trying to highlight that as much as possible. And part of this also that I didn't mention, another component, is that we're doing an oral history of residents and actually asking them to tell their stories. And what we want to do is take like 2-minute snippets out of those and show them to the state legislature and really push for more of this. And the state is super supportive of all our work and interested in helping us expand to other areas.
Right. And I can echo that, as well as awareness campaigns on not only accreditation, but as we're going through the process of accreditation, I do a lot of TA around the Fair Housing Act and around the Americans with Disabilities Act, and let people know what their rights are, but mainly also letting them know what their responsibilities are as a provider, that they must provide access, and that they could potentially be violating someone's rights in that arena. If they don't have a reasonable accommodation request for them at a minimum. So, and my goal is to, again, demystify the whole system of MOUD in Texas. It is a very, very stigmatized, and I think the stigma, what I've found, is because they don't understand it. Just like anything gets stigmatized that people don't understand readily. They've been doing it a certain way for so many years. And I'm seeing some of that breakdown. When you break down to what the issue really is, it's I just don't want to harm people. I just don't want to do it and not be good at it and have somebody get harmed in the process. So as we're going through and doing some of these reports and the exciting paper that's being written on the medication policies that Cheryl's working on right now, those kind of things will demystify this whole process. And so that's basically, we're trying to get the awareness out there to have way more mood friendly homes.
Fantastic. Gosh, this has been amazing. And I hate to break up the discussion, but we have a couple of other slides that we want to share with you guys just to keep you up to date on things that are happening with the I-STARR project. We'll have another webinar next month. We'll hear from Dr. Rachel Winograd. She'll be presenting findings from her I-STARR pilot study, and she'll talk about her work developing a measure of MOUD barriers in recovery housing. And then in October, we'll have someone present, one of our advisory board members, John Major. He'll be presenting on his research on attitudes towards MAT among residents in Oxford houses. And so you can hear more about those webinars and everything that the I-STARR project is up to on our website, and you can connect with us on social media. All of those are listed on this slide. If you go to the website and you look at the webinars, you'll also read about our training series. So if you've attended other I-STARR webinars, you may have attended a training series webinar, and that is a really neat 12 webinar series on that has specific tracks for operators and recovery residents providers, as well as researchers, 12 webinars for researchers and folks who complete or participate in all 12 of those webinars, whichever track, can receive a certificate certifying that they have viewed and participated in all of those webinars, and be listed on our website as someone who has received that certificate. And folks who participate in the training series for operators or providers can earn CEUs for that webinar series. Be on the lookout for upcoming I-STARR webinars, and stay in touch with us. We're getting close to the top of the hour. I just want to thank everyone for showing up to this webinar. What a treat it has been to hear about Project Homes. Thank you, Jason, Jen, and Cheryl. And I'm very sorry that we missed Mike, but what an amazing project, and what a treat to have you guys presented it on it at the I-STARR webinar series. And I hope that we see folks back here again for another webinar. The next one will be in September on the 17th. Thank you so much.